Okay, here we go. Welcome to session number 140 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. 140. We are still in chapter 17, entitled Forgiveness and the Holy Relationship. And today we will be concerned with section 7, Roman numeral 7, entitled The Call for Faith. Okay, just let me adjust the fan. Okay, just a little preface. When Jesus will be telling us you're faithless, your lack of faith, stuff like that. He's never doing it, with any kind of condemnation. It's always in a rather matter-of-fact tone. As I hear, look at what this is. Look at what that is. Look at what you're doing over here. And he's always talking to the decision-making part of the mind. All right, we can refer to it as the decision maker, as Dr. Wapnick used to. All right, so there's a part of our mind that chooses between the ego thought system and the thought system of returning home. All right, the wrong mind, the right mind, things like that. Okay, so when we have a lack of faith, we've aligned ourselves with the ego thought system. All right. When we have faith, we're aligned with Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Okay? And Jesus never speaks with a judgmental tone. All right? Never. Okay? So, let's just look at this. The Call for Faith, paragraph 1, on page 367 of the text. The substitutes for aspects of the situation are the witnesses to your lack of faith. They demonstrate that you did not believe the situation and the problem were in the same place. The problem was the lack of faith. And it is this you demonstrate when you remove it from its source and place it elsewhere. As a result, you do not see the problem. Had you not lacked faith that it could be solved, the problem would be gone, and the situation would have been meaningful to you, because the interference in the way of understanding would have been removed. To remove the problem elsewhere is to keep it. For you remove yourself from it and make it unsolvable. Okay. So substitutes for the aspects of the situation are witnesses to your lack of faith. So what the situation is I've chosen to believe I'm separated from God. That's the situation. All right? And we cut ourselves off from that. We split off from that idea. And we think we're in this world here, and there are so many aspects to the situation. There's so many problems. All right? All kinds of problems. Physical, mental, financial, all kinds of problems. All right? These are substitutes for aspects of the situation. The situation is always the belief that I separated from God. And the answer is always to remember you haven't done that. You have not separated from God. All right? It's just that your mind is so powerful. What you think you did, you can manifest. All right, that's what happens. At one point, Jesus says, all thought produces form on some level. Okay, So on this level, the thought of separation has produced this form. And these are substitutes for aspects of the situation. And they are witnesses to my lack of faith. All right? They're witnesses to me aligning myself with the ego thought system, which is the thought system of separation. All right? Sin, guilt, and fear. All right? And the first idea is the separation, the big sin. Okay? So these substitutes, they demonstrate that you did not believe the situation and the problem were in the same place. Okay? He says you didn't believe it, that the situation, all right, and the problem were in the same place. Okay? The problem was the lack of faith. All right? And it is this you demonstrate when you remove it from its source and place it elsewhere. So I demonstrate my lack of faith when I remove the problem from the mind and I put it elsewhere, outside of me, in the world. All right? Something is threatening me, something is, attacking me. Okay? So the problem was the lack of faith. And it is this you demonstrate when you remove it from its source and place it elsewhere. Right? As a result, you do not see the problem. So if I keep thinking the problems are out here, and there are so many of them, they're all different, he says, as a result, you don't see the problem. Had you not lacked faith that it could be solved, the problem would be gone. All right? So the problem would be gone if I would come back to the right mind and remember that I never left heaven. Problem solved. And the situation would have been meaningful to you because the interference in the way of understanding would have been removed. To remove the problem elsewhere is to keep it. Right? For you remove yourself from it and make it unsolvable. All righty then. So if I had kept the problem in the mind and remembered that I wasn't separated from God, and the situation would have been meaningful. Right? Because the interference in the way of understanding would have been removed, which is all the outside influences, outside the mind. And then he reminds us to remove the problem out somewhere else. To remove the problem elsewhere is to keep it. So if I keep thinking the problem is out here, it's this, it's that, I keep the problem. Remember, the problem is believing I'm separated from God. It's just I have myself convinced that it shows up in different ways. And I'm not even aware of that, the original problem. All right? Paragraph 2. There is no problem in any situation that faith will not solve. There's no shift in any aspect of the problem, but will make solution impossible. For if you shift part of the problem elsewhere, the meaning of the problem must be lost. And the solution to the problem is inherent in its meaning. Is it not possible that all your problems have been solved? But you have removed yourself from the solution. Yet faith must be where something has been done and where you see it done. So there's no problem in any situation that faith will not solve. So he's telling you, bring all your supposed problems, or what you think are problems, right? Bring it to me. Bring it to the Holy Spirit. Bring it to the right mind. And ask to see it through the eyes of truth, through the eyes of peace. Okay? That is the way the problem gets solved. So there's no shift in any aspect of the problem, but will make solution impossible. So any kind of shift out of the mind will make solution impossible. It's problems they pop up all over the place, one after another. For if you shift the problem elsewhere, where the meaning of the problem will be lost, the solution to the problem is inherent in its meaning. All right? The solution to the problem is inherent in its meaning. The solution is inherent in the idea that I separated from God. The solution is in that thought. You didn't. You did not separate from God. Then he says, is it not possible that all your problems have been solved, but you have removed yourself from the solution? All right. And it's a very, astute way of saying your problems have been solved. It's just that you don't realize it yet, because you're still believing you separated from God. All right. He said, right at the instant that the tiny mad idea crept in, it was solved. All right? That's the atonement principle. Oh, maybe I could leave God. Boom. You never left God. All right? It's just that we live in the wake of that thought. All right? Oh, I separated from God. We're living in the wake of that thought. But in actuality, you are at home in heaven, dreaming of exile. Just another way of saying all your problems have been solved. It's just that you've removed yourself from the solution. Yet faith must be where something has been done and where you see it done. All right, so faith is in that holy instant. All right, you put your faith in the holy instant, in the right mind. All right. Where something has been done, you have been released from the ego thought system. All right. And you will be able to see through that filter. You'll see something has been done. All right. Paragraph 3. A situation is a relationship, being the joining of the thoughts. If problems are perceived, it is because the thoughts are judged to be in conflict. But if the goal is truth, this is impossible. Some idea of bodies must have entered, for minds cannot attack. The thought of bodies is the sign of faithlessness, for bodies cannot solve anything. It is their intrusion on the relationship, an error in your thoughts about the situation, which then becomes the justification for your lack of faith. You will make this error, but be not at all concerned with that. The error does not matter. Faithlessness brought to faith will never interfere with truth, but faithlessness used against truth will always destroy faith. If you lack faith, ask that it be restored where it was lost, and seek not to have it made up to you elsewhere, as if you had been unjustly deprived of it. Alrighty then. So a situation is a relationship, right, being the joining of thoughts. If problems are perceived, it's because the thoughts are judged to be in conflict. Right? In other words, there's the belief in duality. Right? I want this, you want that. Right? But if the goal is truth, if we have set the goal and we continue to reset the goal, because Jesus knows we're going to make mistakes, he's going to say that in the next few sentences. But if we set the goal as truth and we honestly want that as our goal, okay, then conflict it'll become impossible. So some ideas of bodies must have entered. All right? In other words, I mean, the idea of a body comes with the aligning ourselves with the ego thought system, or that lack of faith. Right? So the bodies intrude on the relationship, and error in your thoughts about the situation, which then becomes the justification for your lack of faith. Bodies are very convincing, right? It's the ego's ace in the hole. It always, eventually plays that card that says, well, you don't think you're a body? Check this out, all right? Bodies always intrude on the situations, all right? Then it becomes our justification for my not going into the mind to solve the problem. No, but the problem's here. The problem's out here in my body, in somebody else's body. Okay. We become so afraid of the problem, and we become afraid of the solution. All right, that we're so mixed up. All right, it becomes difficult to go to the mind. All right, and we justify it by saying, "But I have to take care of this. I have to take care of that." And he says, look, he says, you will make this error. Right? You will make this error, paying attention to the body and other bodies. Right? But be not at all concerned with that. Just don't worry about it. Right? Don't take it too seriously. The error doesn't matter. Right? Because faithlessness brought to faith will never interfere with truth. Right? We can always come back to the mind. Right? Always come back to the mind and ask to have my perceptions corrected. Help me to see the truth. Faithlessness brought to faith. All right? So I leave my ego beliefs down and come back to the right mind and say, help me to see correctly. He says that will never interfere with truth. Right? But faithlessness used against truth will always destroy faith. Right? If I run back to the ego, insisting that this is what's real, the world, myself, my body, my personality, my friends, my job, whatever. That's being used against truth, and it will destroy the truth. Right? If you lack faith, ask that it be restored where it was lost. So if I lack faith, he says, ask for it to be restored where it was lost, in the mind. Right? Everything is happening in the mind. Right? So I ask Jesus, please restore my faith. Help me to see correctly. Right? So, it can only be restored where it was lost, if you lack faith. Paragraph 4. Only what you have not given can be lacking in any situation. But remember this, the goal of holiness was set for your relationship and not by you. You did not set it because holiness cannot be seen except through faith. And your relationship was not holy because your faith in your brother was so limited and little. Your faith must grow to meet the goal that has been set. The goal's reality will call this forth, for you will see that peace and faith will not come separately. What situation can you be in without faith and remain faithful to your brother? Okay? So there's a lot of things going on underneath those words. It's the concept that we are truly one. Right? We're truly one, but while we're here, it's a process in remembering that. Right? And he says, only what you have not given can be lacking. Right? So it's only lacking if I didn't give it. Right? And what that is, that's the forgiveness, the willingness to see the innocence, the willingness to experience the oneness, the connection. All right. He says, so if anything is if all that is lacking, it's because you didn't give it. All right. And he's not pointing a finger at you, telling you you're going to do, 15 to life because of that. It's just saying, just look at it. If you're not feeling well, mentally, physically, emotionally, check yourself. Come back to the right mind. Okay? Only what you have not given can be lacking. Right? He says, remember this. The goal of holiness was set for your relationship and not by you. Right? So the atonement, the idea that you did not separate from God, that's been there. All right? You didn't set that. You didn't create that. All right? You did not set it because holiness cannot be seen except through faith. All right? So we don't see through the eyes of holiness or peace or truth without coming to the right mind. That's faith. Investing your belief in the right mind. Okay? And he says, you didn't set it because holiness cannot be seen except through faith, and your relationship was not holy because your faith in your brother was so limited and little. All right? And that faith in the brother is the other person is the willingness to see that spark of godliness, that willingness to remember that they are in the mind of God as we are, that willingness to see the innocence. All right? So that willingness is, kind of weak and limited. All right? That's why your relationship is not a completely holy relationship. You might dedicate yourself to that, but it's a process. It's a process. Okay? So he says, your faith must grow to meet the goal that has been set. All right? You can hear my little girl meowing in the background, calling for room service. All right? So your faith must grow, that's the process, to meet the goal that has been set. Right? And the goal is to have truth arise in our mind. First there's peace, and then truth comes of itself. The peace of mind is always that fertile soil from which springs the truth immediately. Okay? And it's a process. Your faith must grow to meet the goal. And the goal's reality will call this forth. For you will see the peace and faith that peace and faith will not come separately. The goal's reality, the reality of peace and truth will keep calling you. All right? Keep dedicating yourself to it. All right? And it will grow stronger. It will reinforce itself. All right? So, the goal's reality will call this forth. For you will see that peace and faith will not come separately. What situation could you be in without faith and remain faithful to your brother? Okay? So if I'm in the ego thought system, I can't be faithful to my brother. No matter how I disguise it, I can smile all I want. But, thing is, I'm waiting for you to attack me in some way, okay? I'm waiting for you to take something that's mine, or thousands of other things. So he says, what situation can you be in without faith and remain faithful to your brother? All right, here she is. What a nice girl. So, paragraph 5. There we go. Every situation in which you find yourself is but a means to meet the purpose set for your relationship. Okay? Every situation in which you find yourself, right, is a means to meet the purpose that we set for the relationship. Every thing. If we set the goal, everything will be used to bring us to that goal. Okay? See it as something else and you're faithless. Use not your faithlessness. Let it enter and look on it calmly. Okay? This is the process. Let the faithlessness, let the alignment with the ego thought system, let it enter, and look on it calmly, but do not use it. Okay? Faithlessness is the servant of illusion and wholly faithful to its master. Use it, and it will carry you straight to illusions. Be tempted not by what it offers you. It interferes not with the goal, but with the value of the goal to you. Accept not the illusion of peace that it offers, but look upon its offering and recognize it is illusion. All right? It's a very poetic way of saying over and over again what Jesus always says is just look. Look at the ego and decide against it. No, I don't want to use the ego. I don't want that teacher. I don't want that filter. I don't want that thought system. All right? He said, because if you do go that way, if you use the ego as your teacher, if you use the ego as your filter, it's going to carry you straight into illusions. Okay? And keep in the back of your mind this whole world and everything around it. The universe is, constellations, helicopters on Mars. It's all part of the illusion. So just keep that in your mind, right? Because it's all part of the ego thought system, which is very convincing, and the mind is very powerful. All right? It makes up very beautiful pictures to convince us. But he says, be not tempted by what it offers you. Okay? So don't be tempted by what the ego is offering. All right? He says it doesn't interfere with the goal, all right? But it interferes with the value of the goal to you. What do you value more? Do you value peace? right? Or do you, value the prestige, or, the temporary safety, or the satiation, or, what is it you value more than being connected with the memory of who you are? Right? So the ego is very good at offering you stuff that looks more enticing than the memory of who you are. Okay? So it diminishes the value of the goal of peace. Right? So, he says, accept not the illusion of peace that it offers, but look upon its offering and recognize it is illusion. All right? So it's always look at the ego, don't deny it, look at it, say, oh, there it is. And you choose, do I want this? No, I want peace. Above all else, I want to see, which means I want to see correctly. I want to see through the eyes of peace. All right? And a couple of times in this paragraph, I was reminded of the movie entitled A Beautiful Mind. Okay? And names slip away from me. Not just recently, but, it started 30 years ago. But, so I don't remember the name of the character or the actor, but he was a famous mathematician from Princeton. Okay? And, he was a Nobel Prize winner, all right? And he was tormented with hallucinations and all kinds of mental problems, psychological problems, that he eventually got under control. All right, but they were horrid. He thought he had a friend, a great friend in college. Right, he thought there was a man from the CIA who he would communicate with, and all kinds of things, right? So he accepts his Nobel Prize at the end, and he's walking out with his wife, and he looks to the side, and there are the three hallucinations, the three people, so to speak, that would torment him, right? They're still there. To me, that represents the ego. All right, and we get to a point where we can look over and say, oh, there it is. All right, and then refuse to engage in it. All right, in other words, look upon the offering, look upon what they're offering you, and recognize it is illusion. Okay. So the idea is always to look, and to look at it calmly. Right? Look at it very calmly. I think he says that somewhere here too, but let's not retrace our steps. All right? And that's the idea, is you don't do it with that frantic, oh no, it's the ego. I don't want that, forget about it. It's just, oh look, there it is. There it is, and I don't want it. Okay? Reminds me of a story Pema Chodron taught about a friend of hers who was talking about mindfulness and coming back to the center and things like that. And when he noticed he was engaged in other thoughts, he would just go, oh, thinking, and come back to the center. It's kind of that simple once you get the hang of it. It's like, oh, I don't want the ego. All right, help me to see correctly. All right. So, paragraph 6. The goal of illusion is as closely tied to faithlessness as faith to truth. If you lack faith in anyone to fulfill and perfectly his part in any situation dedicated in advance to truth, your dedication is divided. And so you have been faithless to your brother and used your faithlessness against him. No relationship is holy unless its holiness goes with it everywhere. As holiness and faith go hand in hand, so must its faith go everywhere with it. The goal's reality will call forth and accomplish every miracle needed for its fulfillment. Nothing too small or too enormous, too weak or too compelling, but will be gently turned to its use and purpose. The universe will serve it gladly as it serves the universe, but do not interfere. Okay? Do not interfere. Right? Don't try to control the situation. Right? Let Jesus drive the bus. All right? So this is the goal of illusion is as closely tied to faithlessness as faith to truth. So if I put my faith in the ego thought system, which is termed faithlessness, then that's the goal will be illusion, right? As the opposite. Okay. So faith is closely tied to truth. I come to the right mind. That's investing in the truth. Right? And he says, if you lack faith in anyone to fulfill and perfectly his part in any situation dedicated in advance to truth, your dedication is divided. So he says, once you've dedicated yourself to truth, right, just let things unfold and keep coming back to the right mind. To remind yourself and to renew your goal, I want to see. I want to see through the eyes of truth. Right? So, where are we? So if you lack faith in anyone to fulfill his part, all right, your dedication is divided. All right? So this little play that we've got going on here, all right, these are just other actors reading their scripts. All right, we can look at it that way. And they will all do their part. All right? And if we're dedicated to truth, whatever they're doing will help us get to the truth, right? No matter how outrageous it is, right? It could be kind, it could be outrageous. Whatever they're doing, right? If we're asking to see it through the eyes of truth, that's what we will say. And we can be grateful to them for doing their part, right? So we don't try to change anyone or correct anyone or, you know, I mean, certain things have to be done within a society, but, you know, that's why you have traffic lights, for please sake. All right? But while we're here, so things have to be done. But anything that has to be done, as far as rules and laws and things like that, can be done through the right mind. Right? My goal is peace. And you go about your business. Just don't think that peace looks this way, peace looks that way. You know, this is what I have to do. All right? He says nothing too small or too enormous, right? But will be gently turned to its use, no matter what. It will be turned to use it to come to the realization of peace and truth. The universe will serve it gladly as it serves the universe. Right? Just let things work out. Don't interfere. Right? The only thing I need to do is be willing to have the truth shown to me. Okay? And that takes practice. Because we're people, we want to change things, we want to correct things. Right? We think we have to do. And if we need to do something, you'll be directed from the right mind. Right? Jesus always says that. If you need a word, you'll get it. If you need to do something, you'll get the idea of what to do. All right. Paragraph 7. The power set in you, in whom the Holy Spirit's goal has been established, is so far beyond your little conception of the infinite that you have no idea how great the strength that goes with you. And you can use this in perfect safety. Yet for all its might, so great it reaches past the stars and to the universe that lies beyond them, your little faithlessness can make it useless. If you would use the faithlessness instead. All right, he says you don't realize. Right? You don't realize the infinite power, the infiniteness of your being. Okay. The power set in you, in whom the Holy Spirit's goal has been established, is so far beyond your little conception of the infinite. Okay. He says you really have no concept, all right, until it begins to dawn on you. And the only way it dawns on us is to continue practicing to go to the holy instant and saying, help me to see. I'm willing to see the truth. All right? This is but that little doubt, that little return to the ego thought system, all right, makes your power useless. And then he says, yet think on this and learn the cause of faithlessness. You think you hold against your brother what he has done to you. But what you really blame him for is what you did to him. It is not his past, but yours you hold against him. And you lack faith in him because of what you were. Yet you are as innocent of what you were as he is. What never was is causeless and is not there to interfere with truth. There is no cause for faithlessness, but there is cause for faith. That cause has entered any situation that shares its purpose. The light of truth shines from the center of the situation and touches everyone to whom the situation's purpose calls. It calls to everyone. There is no situation that does not involve your whole relationship in every aspect and complete in every part. You can leave nothing of yourself outside it and keep the situation holy. For it shares the purpose of your whole relationship and derives its meaning from it. All right. So he says, just think about this. He said, you think you hold against your brother what he's done to you. You know, all your resentments and everything. All right. He says, but in actuality, he says, what you really blame him for is what you did to him. Right? It is not his past, but yours you hold against him. Right? And what it is that what I did to him was I saw him as separated from God. and therefore guilty of something, not worthy of love. He's separated from God. That's what I did to him. I saw him through the eyes of the ego. Right? So he says, so it's not his past, but yours that you hold against him. Right? So remember that twofold meaning of the past. That the past is the choice for separation that happened in the past. Although Jesus says it's happening every moment. All right. And that's what I'm blaming him for. All right. It's not his past, but yours that you hold against him. All right. So I'm projecting the guilt onto him. Okay. And you lack faith in him because of what you were. All right. So I lack faith in him because I was faithless. I was believing I was separate. Yet, he says, but yet you are as innocent of what you were as he is. So in other words, while all this nonsense is going on, you are as innocent as he is. Right? Jesus says it so many ways over and over again. You have not left your Father. You have not left the Creator. You have not left heaven. Right? You are as innocent as the moment you were created. Okay. And he says, what never was is causeless. All right. What never was is this whole experience we're having here. Okay? It's causeless. All right? What never was is causeless and is not there to interfere with truth. All right? He says there's no cause for faithlessness, but there is cause for faith. All right? There is a cause for faith. That cause has entered any situation that shares its purpose. All right. So, the memory of who you are, the Holy Spirit, the symbol of Jesus, all those things. All right. They're with us in any situation that shares its purpose, which is peace, truth. The light of truth shines from the center of the situation and touches everyone to whom the situation's purpose calls. So no matter what situation I'm in, if my goal is truth, my goal is peace, that will be shining out from the center, touching everyone and everything that's involved in the situation. And it calls to everybody. There's no situation that does not involve your whole relationship. Right? And that's my whole relationship with Jesus, with Holy Spirit, with the memory of who I am. Right? So there's no situation that's not involved with the entire relationship of who I am. In every aspect and complete in every part. You can leave nothing of yourself outside it and keep the situation holy. All right? You can't separate any part of yourself, all right, and keep the separation holy. For it shares the purpose of your whole relationship and derives its meaning from it. So whatever situation I'm in, if my goal is peace, all right, then that gives meaning to the situation. Okay. Paragraph 9. Enter each situation with faith, with the faith you give your brother, or you are faithless to your own relationship. Your faith will call the others to share your purpose. as the same purpose called forth the faith in you. And you will see the means you once employed to lead you to illusions transformed to means for truth. Truth calls for faith, and faith makes room for truth. When the Holy Spirit changed the purpose of your relationship by exchanging yours for His, the goal He placed there was extended to every situation in which you enter or will ever enter. And every situation was thus made free of the past, which would have made it purposeless. Okay? He's really generalizing now here. And he says, every situation. All right? Enter each situation with the faith you give your brother. Your faith will call the others to share your purpose. Okay? Because you're in the right mind, you want to see correctly. Right? That will call others to the same purpose. Right? You become the channel of truth, of peace, by not doing anything except wanting that. Right? That's what I want. I want to connect with truth. I want to connect with peace. Right? And your faith will call others to share your purpose. And you will see the means that you once employed to lead you to illusions transformed to means for truth. So your life, right, everything in your life will now become a means for truth. It'll be a way of getting to the truth because you've dedicated yourself to seeing the truth. You've set the goal. So when the Holy Spirit changed the purpose of your relationship, right, from guilt to innocence, so to speak, right, from projecting guilt to being willing to see the innocence, right, when the Holy Spirit changed the purpose of your relationship by exchanging yours for His, the goal He placed there, right, was extended to every situation in which you enter. So my goal is peace, okay? It's extended to every situation in which I enter, or will ever enter. And so every situation was made free of the past. So every situation was made free of the idea of sin and guilt and fear. Which would have made everything purposeless. All right. So I dedicate myself to truth, and that comes with me wherever I go. And so Jesus, knowing this is a process, just as often as you can, when you realize you're totally involved with the ego, you can bring yourself back, become mindful, and just said, no, anything, say anything, no, I don't want this. Help me to see correctly. All right. Tell Jesus, you drive for a while. All right, I don't want to drive the bus anymore. Paragraph 10, your call for faith because of Him who walks with you in every situation. You call for faith because of Him who walks with you in every situation. So Jesus, Holy Spirit, they walk with you in every situation. And therefore you're sending out the beacon, the call for faith. And He says you're no longer wholly insane, nor no longer alone. For loneliness in God must be a dream. You whose relationship shares the Holy Spirit's goal are set apart from loneliness because the truth has come. Its call for faith is strong. Use not your faithlessness against it, for it calls you to salvation and peace. All right. So your relationship shares the Holy Spirit's goal, right, which is ultimately remembering who you are. It's peace. Then from the peace, the truth arrives. It rises of itself. And we see through the eyes of truth. And everything is transformed. Right? And there is no more sense of loneliness. Right? We know that we are in the arms of God, so to speak. Okay? And its call for faith is strong. All right? It calls you to salvation and peace. Okay? So once again, to simplify, it's noticing when the ego has taken the prevalent part of your life there, and realizing, oh no, I don't want the ego. I don't want the ego solutions. I want peace. You come back to the mind and say, above all else, I want to see. Help me. Okay? And that's the call for faith. Just notice the ego and say, no, I don't want that. All right? All righty then. I think we can leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And if hey, remember, if anybody has any questions, message me. All right? I've totally figured out how to use message on Facebook, and I can also answer things on YouTube, okay? So I have pages on YouTube and Facebook, okay? And for deeper study of the course, remember, you can always go to the Foundation for a Course in Miracles, FACIM.org, Foundation for a Course in Miracles, where you will find a veritable treasure trove of Ken Wapnick's teachings, his writings, his lectures. All righty. And with that note, all right, stay in the right mind as long as you can. Until next time, bye.